Welcome back to another episode of the Between the Lines podcast. Today we'll be talking about college football, the NBA playoffs, as well as the unwritten rules of sports. So today we're going to be talking about the Big Ten and the Pac-12's decision to stop fall sports and most especially college football. That being said, I'm going to toss it to Kyle and he's going to start us off first today.
Yeah, so real quick, I'll just go into it. I think it's pretty interesting that, they canceled football and they're bringing back students to campus. I just feel like, college sports is kind of confused right now. Like, do we have all these students on campus and not play, or do we play? I just feel like nobody really knows like what to do. And of course, it's a challenging time, so there are a lot of questions up in the air. But um, I just feel like they don't really have it together as far as what they want to do.
You see, I think the problem here is the fact that both sides have really good arguments to either go for the football season or not go for it. So, starting off with the arguments for having a football season. I'll quote Joe Burrow on this one, and he said, "If it wasn't for my last season or my last college football season, I'd be looking for a job right now." And we're talking about the first overall pick, a lot of money involved, QB1 for the Bengals. Definitely took a really huge turn on his last football season. A guy that was projected to be undrafted ended up becoming the better QB of the class and winning it all. So, a season can really make a huge impact. And I feel like a lot of athletes that maybe they haven't proved enough yet on college and they were like super motivated for their last season. There's always that last chance to go pro. And I mean, we're talking about people that have been focusing all their lives on football, playing D1, whatever, man. And it's kind of sad to take that away from them. But on the other point of view, some of the players are questioning, like, if you want us to go back, pay us, because, well, one thing is to restart and the end. One thing is to have the NFL season or the NBA season, because we're talking about paid athletes. And, well, you just got to do your job, right? Like, people are starting going back to their jobs with the COVID situation. It's just another job. You go get your money and play for that. When it comes to college, though, you play at a high level too, in huge stadiums, and, well, just like the NFL, but you don't get paid. So I totally understand the argument that, man, if you're not going to get paid, I'm not going to risk my life, because that's what we're going to do if we're playing during the virus. So, yeah, man, I have utter respect for both sides. I think at this point, it's a player's decision. I speak for myself. If I had a chance to play last year college football and, well, a pandemic was going on, maybe I'd put my career over it and just take the risk and take the extra risk, show my commitment. But at the same time, man, if I have like a family, like some of these guys are already dads and all that, I'm not gonna risk my whole family or even career or health just because of a sport that I'm not gonna even get paid. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's my take on it.
I hear that. And I think I kind of fall near the same point as you, Tiago, in seeing that there's both compelling arguments for both sides like the conferences of the Big Ten and Pac-12 that say, "Hey, we're not going to do sports," and then athletes. We talk about Justin Fields, the quarterback that is at Ohio State, who put together a petition to try and get sports back for the Big Ten. So, and I see that especially for guys that are seniors and it's their last year to go out there, put tape together, whether they're trying to get to the NFL or whether they're just trying to say, "Hey, it's my senior year. I want to make this happen. I don't want to put my life on hold for another year and have to come back." And who knows, maybe they're not going to give those red shirts out. And it's like, well, if the season doesn't happen, you're just out of luck. And then I also want to bring in the topic of there is conversation about trying to shift the football season and all of fall sports to the spring, which would be somewhat of a clusterfuck in that also spring sports would be going on then as well. But for me personally, I think there's just too much unknown right now about the virus in terms of the health effects that it has, because we know people like Donald Trump have made tweets and made public statements actually about athletes being young and strong and they can overcome this virus. But I want to talk about a random player here who's not very good, but Mo Bamba, right? He had to leave the bubble due to complications with the virus. And we've heard about things, respiratory issues, heart issues, breathing problems. So it's just like you don't really know. And colleges aren't, it's not like professional sports. These universities could potentially be on the hook if, there's a mass pandemic within a university that decides to start playing football again. Like, they have to address those problems, and you never know, that could result in lawsuits, that could result in anything. So I think that the Big 10 and the Pac 12 are smart for being on the preventative side of things, and I'll be curious to see in the next few weeks how the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 make strides in either continuing the plans for the fall football season or also putting things on postponement.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's also another thing too, Max. That these universities really got to protect themselves because should anything go wrong with this virus, and God forbid, it's gonna look really bad for these schools. It could hurt many things. It could even go as deep as hurting recruiting and all that. So,
Or wait, how
um,
about let's take it farther? How about if you get a real problem, how about the amount of applicants you get to your school next year?
ooh,
They see that
yeah,
all these coronavirus, that's going to hit you in a lot
Mhm.
of different pockets, not just your
yeah,
pockets for sports. Like, you got people considering, well, is this really like a good university for me to go to? Like, who knows? There might not be a vaccine, 8 months from now. And when kids start to apply again, I don't know. There's a cycle to this thing, and there's so many variables that we don't always think about, especially as fans. And I think as players are somewhat one dimensional in that, hey, we know there's a virus, but we really want to play, so let's get out there. But I think these conferences that postpone, they're thinking about so many different things, and I think that they'll be on the right side of history in terms of this whole situation, but only time will tell.
You know
oh
what's
yeah, for
crazy?
sure. Go ahead.
You know what's crazy here? You mentioned the Donald Trump tweet, and
Hmm.
man, that's a huge thing. Listen, if somebody said, if the president, it's not someone, if the president says, "Oh, they healthy, they can play," all the healthy young people in the U.S. will think, "Well, I'm healthy and young too. I can whatever. The virus won't affect
Facts.
me." Do you guys understand the impact that this tweet might have? Oh, like way outside sports, way outside sport. I'm
Oh,
talking about
what
like,
there's so many problems with what he said. It would take us
oh my
hours to
god,
fully dissect it.
that's crazy. That's completely taking out of consideration the families of these guys. Because like, okay, yeah, you're young and healthy, you're an athlete, you're playing out there, you get the virus, you don't feel it. You go home, you infect your grandma, she's gonna feel it, or even your parents. Like whatever, man. This. Honestly, sometimes I see his tweets and I'm like, nah, his account got hacked. No way. There's just no way. There's just no way you think about those things and you say it out loud as a president. Just that's I don't know,
Right.
Yeah,
man. I have
I
I have no
think
Absolutely.
words.
I think that's a whole nother thing too. So that's pretty tough. But I wanna bring it back to just being able to play a season though. Um, I think it's gonna be pretty challenging as far as like the playoffs go. Having two of your major conferences out, like what exactly are you gonna do? And how do people take that as like, oh well, we won a championship fair and square, but you are missing two other conferences. So I think, some people are gonna look at that one as like, I don't know. So like, what are your thoughts on like as far as not playing with the Big Ten and Pac-12, and like if ACC and SEC were to move forward with playing?
Yeah, I'll start first on this one. So obviously we're here on the West Coast, and that's where many, if not all of the Pac-12 schools are. But in terms of playoff potential, in terms of being, the Final Four teams, the odds of it being a Pac-12 school are very slim. And that's not to
Mhm.
say, oh, like fuck them, we don't care about it, but it's just being realistic. And there's a few different schools in the Big Ten that have chances, but I think if these three conferences, they're just going to move forward with the football season as planned. I think it's just like, hey, for this year, we're forgetting about all the other the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, and let the chips sit where they may. And if you end up winning a national championship, you win a national championship. Some fans might say there's an asterisk on that due to two conferences not participating. But I think in some ways there's parallels to the NBA bubble situation going on, right? This scenario is so unique and we've never seen anything like it. And I know some people will say, "Oh, this is a joke. This is not a normal NBA championship. There's so many variables that are either in play or not in play, depending on what side of the fence you sit on and how you view things." So I just think you got to move forward and you just got to play the games. And people are going to talk. People are going to say what they say, and that's what it is.
I have some thoughts on that. So imagine this. Imagine there's actually a college season, and those conferences do not participate as planned. What if the top students from those colleges, the ones in their last year, transferred to other conference
So
It's
you're saying,
yeah. Go
to
ahead,
play?
Max.
okay? I think transfer wise, I don't think that the NCAA has made rule changes in terms of allowing that quick of a transfer at the moment. There's usually lots of restrictions, and there's a portal season, and there's all these classifications in terms of how you have to transfer. But answering your question in like kind of an alternate scenario where players could kind of move freely, yeah, that would be insane because you'd see people in the Pac-12 and Big Ten that are either seniors or just desperate and dying to get back on the field and play. They'd be dipping. They'd be like, I'm out. I'm trying to play this year. So I think that's definitely interesting for sure.
And that's another thing. You spoke about the people that apply for colleges and people that accept scholarships and whatever. I feel like if I was an athlete right now and I was about to accept a scholarship from a school that's not playing. I know it's not the school's fault. It's just the whole conference agreed on that. But I'm like, damn, the other schools are playing. Like I don't know if next year the virus will be better or not. I don't know if next year there'll be a season or not. But I probably want to be on the team that's going to play. Even if it's not such a great, not as great as a program. I want to have tape. I want to have I want to have numbers. I want to have stats, whatever, man. And maybe transfer when the schools are back. I don't know, man. There's a lot of
Well,
variables here.
well, check this. On that, I would say is that it's like we are in an unpredictable situation. So as a player, you gotta still choose a school that's best for you. And like I see what you're saying, that maybe they won't maybe they're not gonna play again. Like let's say stuff, goes bad again and the Big Ten decides again next year they're not playing. I see how that situation could be pretty tough, but as a team in the Big Ten, you've got to move forward with recruiting and bettering your team. And as a player, if whatever school in the Big Ten is the perfect fit for you, I don't think you should, just not go there because. But it's definitely going to be within people's thoughts, like oh, like they're probably going to be one of the teams to bail out if things go left again.
I definitely think it's
Yeah,
going to be a huge mess from now on when it comes to college football, man. The fact that some conferences don't want to play, others want to play, there's petitions to play, whatever, man. There's a whole mess going on. And I mean, I love to talk about it for hours and hours because there's, like we said, there's a lot of variables and stuff that we can touch, we can talk, but like, what's the point? Like, we don't know what's gonna happen. Like you guys said, at this point, it's just a big what if. Some people want to play, some people don't. Both have reasons. So, what are you going with? Like,
right. Yeah, before transitioning, I wanted to say the same thing that you just said, Tiago. It's similar to this coronavirus situation right now. Some people walk out of their house with the mask on. Some people say fuck that and say, the government's not going to control me. I don't believe in this hoax. And some people want to play football and some people are on the preventative side of saying, "Hey, this is a real virus and probably physical contact like that isn't the best thing at this point." And there's so many variables as you said. It's a really tough situation to navigate and everybody has an opinion, and that it is what it is. And I think that's really all you can say about it at this point. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the other three conferences, if they postpone or if they move forward, and if possibly the other three conferences do play in the fall. Maybe the Pac-12 and the Big Ten do something in the spring where it's just the two of them playing against each other. We'll see. It will be interesting, no doubt about it. But now let's talk about something that's maybe even more interesting: the NBA playoffs. So the topic is on the table and it's up for negotiation. Where are we starting about the NBA playoffs? What we have seen so far?
kick
Well,
off,
let me
Kyle.
start real quick. First,
All right.
I think I was against you, Max. as far as the
Mhm.
Blazers and the Lakers go. So I'm gonna throw a little apology. I'm not gonna say that,
Okay.
I'm not gonna say that, you completely right, but I like watching the game, I'm sitting there and I see every 2 seconds I look up, Danny Green missing a corner three. KCP only scoring 1 point first game. There's a lot of problems. When you look at this team, it's literally like LeBron, Diamond, AD getting these buckets. And of course LeBron gets his buckets too, all respects. But this team is like once you like really pick it apart and you put them against a Blazers team that's solid like that, I mean, I was fooled. I think I was really fooled.
What did I tell
Yeah,
you guys?
go ahead,
What
Tiago.
did I tell you? What did I tell you guys? It's the LeBron James effect, man. The same thing happened in the Cavaliers. It's true. The man just carries the team, and if he doesn't carry, and he carried last game because he had huge stats, him and AD. But if you play against another solid team and you have Danny Green shooting breaks and making a castle, then I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough.
But I'm
Yeah,
not
I
counting them
think
out though.
no, no. I was my
No,
thought right after you said what you said is there's a lot of basketball left to be played. But I
thank
do
you.
think when you break the Lakers down and you dissect what they have a whole lot of problems at the guard position. It's just not enough. And for the Lakers to actually get to the finals and win the finals, LeBron's gonna really have to take it to that level that we've seen in years past, and he's gonna have to do it with AD. But I'm sorry, KCP, Dion Waiters, Caruso, the legend that some people think he may be, it's not enough. And Danny Green's been really cold from beyond the 3 point line lately. But that being said, I also see some problems with the Los Angeles Clippers right now. And I
Yes.
know Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis are hell of a tandem, two foreign players that really will pull up from everywhere. But what I want to say about Luca is it's amazing. The NBA is Luca's for the next 10 years. His
Yeah.
ability to operate in the pick and roll, his ability to move slow, move fast, control the ball, get to his spots on the floor, set up teammates is it's I heard this take on the radio the other day. Luka Doncic is a right-handed James Harden. And if you do think about it, there are a lot of similarities in their game
He's
in terms of
better.
how they operate.
He's
He's
better.
better. I agree. He is better. But if you do think about their similarities though, right?
There are
Very,
similarities, but I
very.
will say though, I was gonna mention this game too, or this series. It's a pretty interesting series to watch. I think it's kind of evenly matched. I don't know if y'all would agree, but I
Yeah.
think it's a pretty even match for being a 2-7. Um, but just watching
I
Luca's game though, like I could
It's
see how it's
amazing.
similar, but like I wouldn't like I don't know, like for me personally, I wouldn't like compare it to a James Harden, but I mean,
Oh,
I'd be
okay,
interested
but
to hear more about
all
it.
right, let me ask you this though. If not James Harden, who else could you possibly compare Luca to in the
That
NBA?
is a good question,
To
and
no
let me get
one.
back
To
to
no
you.
one. Luca is Luca,
Right.
and that's
No, I
it.
agree. I fully agree. You're right. You're 100% right. I'm just thinking in terms of his ability, just I guess most similarly, it's the pick and roll situation and what they're
Yeah,
both able to do: get defenders on hips, get to spots, and set up teammates. Obviously, Luca's a better facilitator. Some of the passes he makes are just out of this world. But back to the Clippers, man. Um, you said it's kind of an even series so far, and it has been play wise. It has been, but you look at the talent that the Clippers have on that roster, they have not been playing up to par the last few days. When you have Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Lou Will, Harrell, Marcus Morris is doing his thing. Pat Bev was injured in game two, but you need more from that team. And their defense, especially in the pick and rolls with Luca, has just not been good enough. And it needs to be better if they're gonna, win this series in 6 games. Because I could see it going to 7 at this point.
I want to talk about something here. Dallas is not just about Luca, and Troy Burke was also a very key player, and especially Porzingis, man. If you think about Porzingis, is one of those guys that when he got drafted and he started playing crazy, people thought maybe this guy is going to be the next big thing in New York in the Knicks. I don't think Porzingis could ever be the main focus of a team because he's very injury wise and he's got some flaws in his game. But it seems like Porzingis found the perfect spot for him. Like playing against another superstar like Luka and giving him the space to like not carry the ball as much, shoot some threes, play in the paint, be more comfortable and relaxed. I think Porzingis is a perfect fit for this team. Another thing I want to talk about is Boban Marjanovic. He's playing really good too. I
Yes.
think all these guys that came to Dallas like without no expectations. I mean, I'm talking about like Steph Curry's brother, Seth Curry, Boban, Trey Burke, all these cats, man. They just been surprisingly
Yeah,
good.
I mean, guys, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian
Yeah,
Finney-Smith, those guys are all stepping up.
Yeah, they
yeah,
got
and
solid team.
that's why I think they have a solid chance to fight the Clippers. I'm not going to say the Clippers are going to lose because that's a stretch. That's very hard to say in 7 games. Team with Kawhi, Paul George, and all that. It's kind of tough to say they're going to lose, but I don't know, man. I mean, if Luka and Porzingis keep it up and the whole cast, keeps doing their own thing, it's the same thing as we're talking about the Blazers. It's a very solid team. So if the Clippers behave like the Lakers and are not as solid, and stuff happens when you have two superstars and the rest of the team doesn't work. So I don't know. We just gotta wait and see. But I'm definitely gonna watch these Dallas team. It's a very interesting one to see. It's gonna be an interesting series overall.
Yeah, and then lastly about the Clippers, a comment that a lot of people have made is that team hasn't played together throughout the whole entire year.
Mhm.
Paul George was injured for stretches. Lou Will wasn't always on the floor. Now we're talking about back here in the bubble. Montrezl Harrell came back. He cleared quarantine to play in Game One. Was there with his grandma before she passed away. But I think chemistry wise and rhythm wise, they're still kind of putting the pieces together, and I just hope it doesn't happen too late because I really like Luca and Kristaps, but I want the Clippers to keep advancing because I think it's going to be a really fun team to watch when they put it all together. And I assume by the time, assuming they get past the Mavs into the second round, I think it'll all be clicking. But I think they just need to get there and make that happen.
Oh,
Oh
they're
yeah,
definitely gonna figure it out. And
don't
there's
doubt.
enough basketball left to be played that they're gonna have time to figure it out. That's
If
for
if
sure.
they get
And
if they win this this series, I see the Clippers going all the way to the finals. As I'm watching the Lakers play right now, even if they beat the Blazers, I don't see them beating the Clippers like this, man. I'm sorry.
no, the
Wow.
Clippers are the most. The Clippers. I don't know if you want to make an argument for the Bucks, you can, but I think the Clippers are the most complete team here in the bubble right now.
I don't know about the Bucks, man.
I
I
Let
don't
don't
me know
know,
know,
what
man.
you're
man.
thinking about.
Hey,
I do want to bring that series up though. I do want to bring that series
Mhm.
up. And we were just talking about this before, but
watching the
the
game.
Pacers, the Pacers kind of drive me crazy because they got a solid squad, but like I was explaining, they have all five starters in double digits and their bench is not producing. And I don't know how you expect to win games if your bench only has, one player 8 points, another player maybe 4 points, and then 2 points here and there. Everybody else has zero. You
You know,
can't
you
you
know,
Mhm.
can't win games like that.
you know what's the problem? The problem here is you putting the blame on losing 2 games on the Pacers without like giving the value to the Heat team. You're like, oh, the Pacers are losing
No, no, no,
because
no. I'm
the
not. I'm not.
bench.
I'm not downing. I'm not downing the Heat at all. I think the Heat are the better team, like I said before. I think the Heat are good. I'm just saying. I'm saying for the Pacers case. Like, let's say
Yeah.
I was a Pacers fan, and I'm just talking solely from looking at how they perform. Because of course, you're going against another team in basketball, right? But you got to look at how you perform, and you just got to think like, and it could be reversed too. So you could look at how the Heat played, right? The Heat played great, and then their
Mhm.
bench also came out and you have 15 from Tyler Hero, you have 7 from 2 other players, and you have like I think 4 points from another player, and that was only 4 players that came off the bench. That was good bench performance. Whereas the Pacers were not performing off the bench. So
Mhm.
just looking solely from the outside and not downing either team, just saying that the Pacers got to do better if they want to compete.
I can kind of cut this down to you for size. This is how I see it. Sabonis injury not being there in the bubble is a big problem. Sabonis has offense run through him by the Pacers on so many different occasions, whether it's him in the screen and roll action, him getting the ball on the block, people cutting, him making great passes. That hurts, and you also have to think that now that he's not there, every bench player moves up one spot in the rotation. So that also factors into why you're not seeing great action there for them. But I do think that even with Sabonis, they're just outmatched by this Miami Heat team, and I will give
Agreed.
credit where it's due. I slept on them. I didn't see them being as possibly much of a force as they are now looking like they could be in the Eastern Conference. And I think that at this point in time, the Pacers are just outmatched by that team.
One thing I
Yeah,
want to talk
I
about the
agree.
Heat here, not only as a fan, because well, fuck that, that's worth what it's worth. But when you watch your team being led, like having the leader that Jimmy Butler is, at first I was really scared, and that's something I never hide because what he did in Minnesota and his attitude and all that. But when you see a guy like him play playoff games like he's doing, like just being a dog out there, being there for the team. Because one thing that I truly respect in Jimmy Butler is that, yeah, you might be the captain of this team, but he's making everyone play around him. He's not ball hogging. He's not taking every shot. He's not doing crazy shots, and he's making everyone better around him. Obviously, there's other focal points in the team. Duncan Robinson balling out. Bam Adebayo is huge, huge, like you said earlier, Max. Bam Adebayo is probably the main piece of this team, but man, a lot of respect for a guy like Butler stepping up as a team leader because that's what it is. He's on both sides of the ball. He's great. He's leading the team. He's talking to their teammates. He's being very active. And if for some reason we get to the finals, if for some reason we keep advancing like that, I give all my respect to Jimmy Butler because one thing that D Wade said at the beginning of this year was, "Well, Jimmy, this is your team now," because they were friends, they were previously friends, and Jimmy said he was going to try to honor, the career of D Wade and the legacy that he left behind with the Heat. D Wade gave us 3 rings, and Jimmy Butler is doing exactly that. He's being the leader that we needed, and I just hope he keeps doing it like that. Keeping that attitude.
Absolutely incredible player. You have any more thoughts, Kyle, on the playoffs?
Um, no, I'll just say I didn't really keep up with the whole Duncan Robinson thing, but I just think it's pretty interesting. He's really balling out. So,
Yeah,
last
absolutely.
thing I'll bring up is we knew what the situation was going to be with the Nets, but I just gotta say, Fred VanVleet is really balling, man. Like, I know
Oh
people
yeah.
respect him and all. I know some people maybe just don't think about it, but like, he's really balling. So just be on the lookout for that. Even if they don't make it however far, or maybe they do, whatever it is. I just gotta shout out Fred for that one.
I have
Making
one
me
thing
great.
Yeah.
to say about the Nets too before we move on. Not Jared Allen. Caris LeVert, man. Ooh, wow. After he got that big injury, 2 years ago when D'Lo was there, or last year, I don't remember, and it was a bad injury, and everybody was like, "Damn, this dude's never going to be the same." He's just going to become a role player, 15 average point player. He's stepping up. Man, he took the chance. Like they gave him the chance to like, hey, listen, Durant and Kyrie are coming back next season. Uh, our star players are not here right now, so
That's
this is
gonna be a
your team.
crazy trio next year.
That's going to be a crazy trio, and he took the chance to show that he can be, the big three of with Kevin Durant and Kyrie. Because at this point, he's playing like a superstar. Honestly, he's playing totally like a superstar. I just hope he keeps up that level because he's a player that I like. And I respect. I have utter respect for guys that come back out of injuries like that. So let's see.
Yeah, I have one last thought about the playoffs so far. So we did the top 20 players heading into the bubble playoffs ranking, episode a few shows ago. And I didn't have this player high enough. And I knew he was a star. But after watching these two games, even though, granted, the team that he's been playing against is a great matchup for him, Jason Tatum is a bona fide superstar. You
Mhm.
watch what that man does on the court, it's special. His ability to hit from beyond the line, his length, how he easily strides inside the lane. Like, watch out. The next, 10 years in the NBA, that's Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. Talk about that playoff high that he put up in a loss in game one against the Nuggets. Those players, man. But I got to give props to
Future's
Jason
looking
Tatum
bright.
because he's incredible, man. And I can't wait to keep watching.
Any thoughts
That
on
being
that, Kyle?
said,
I felt like it looked like he was going to say something about Donovan Mitchell when he
you
mentioned
got
that.
something, Kyle? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I'm good. Let's make it happen.
All right. We're on to the next one, our final topic of conversation today. So we're
Ooh,
gonna
the final.
kind of briefly go into the unwritten rules of sports. So we had a situation a few days ago with the superstar shortstop for the San Diego Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr. So the Padres were up about 10-3 in the eighth inning on the road in a game against the Rangers. It was a 3-0 count, and Tatis Jr. takes a fat swing, ends up, hitting a grand slam to right center field. And after the game's over, there's a lot of people that are giving him a hard time, saying, it's one of the unwritten rules of baseball that if you're up by a wide margin and it's a 3-0 count, you're not meant to swing because, you've already, put a beating on that team. And people that are old school in baseball just look at it as, kind of, bad etiquette. But I also want to say about Tatis Jr. is that he's one of the best young players in baseball. He's one of the guys that has a lot of personality, plays with a lot of swag. Decked out in all the gear. He's got the long dreads, he's got the chain, and I think for a lot of young players, kids, I'm talking about growing up. Baseball has the problem of drawing in new fans, and I think kids are drawn to that, seeing players having fun, doing bat flips. I think when you admire a home run too long, you probably deserve to get hit. Maybe your next time up the plate. But I think that Tatis Jr. is everything right about baseball that should continue forward. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts because I know neither of you really have a huge background in baseball. And we could also extend this conversation to unwritten rules in sports that you guys played. I just want to go down that road.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, I was so excited to talk about this. So first of all, I like read up on the whole situation about that. For one, we'll go back to the wanting more fans in baseball. Remember that conversation we were having a while back? Um, I think that's what baseball needs. Like people want to see this excitement. People want to see home runs, bat flips, whatever, you know. And it's 2020. We are so past old school baseball, kind of
Right.
slow baseball. I think people want to see a little bit more. Um, and then another thing is, why are you loading? How'd you load the bases? I didn't watch the game. But, you got to blame the pitcher on that one too. You loaded the bases that early, and me personally, if I see the bases are loaded and you throw me whatever kind of pitch I know I can hit, I don't know how it works. I
Right.
don't know what he was thinking. I'm swinging at that, and I'm knocking it out the park. And we are going to score 14 points, and that's just what it is.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, similarly, it's like in basketball though, right? If a guy's a guy's cooking and you can't stop him, it's not his problem. Like
it's
find
not.
somebody that can stop him. So if you groove a fastball right down the middle in a 3-0 count when you're getting smacked, maybe you should have put it on the outside corner.
Yeah, and then also this is what it is. You're in a game, it's competition. It's
Yeah.
competition. So I look at it as if you let up, people are gonna keep scoring. You gotta go out there and play the game too, right? I wouldn't want to walk
Yeah.
out here and be like, oh, well, they scored a couple runs, but they're gonna respect us, so we'll only lose by like 3. No. No, it's not gonna
Exactly.
happen like that.
I have
And you
I
can
have
look at like even soccer too. Germany when they destroyed Brazil, they didn't let up at 3 goals. Nah, Brazil couldn't stop them, so they were just playing the game that they know how to play. The homeboy had a swing and they set it up perfect and it was bases loaded. He was just doing what he knows how to do. That's all I gotta say.
Right. Tiago,
I
before you
I
hop in real quick, I have one thought. I'm gonna say this. If he had popped out to the first baseman, nobody would have been complaining about it, right? It's only because he
yeah.
hit a grand slam. So that's my
Yeah.
last thought on it.
When I think about unwritten rules, the only thing that comes into my mind is it's all a matter of respect, man. Like I understand what you guys saying, and yeah, you want to win the game at all costs, and you're gonna swing the bat if you get the chance and all of that. But I mean, I won't speak obviously focusing on baseball because well, I'm not so into it, and I understand like if you get a chance to swing and if you're gonna win if it, by even bigger margin, go for it. But if you think about it in football, taking a knee is a thing for a reason, right? Like you're not gonna make if you have the ball and you get like 30 seconds to play and you're winning 14-0. You're not gonna swing the ball. You're not gonna run the ball. You're not gonna cause an injury on your team, and you gotta have respect for the other team. You're just gonna take a knee, say, thank you to the other team, shake hands. That's it. Don't shake hands now because of the virus, but you know what I said. And that's it. And the same thing in basketball. I know, like, what was it last season that a guy tried to score a 3-pointer? I don't remember who it was because he wanted a
Yeah.
triple double
Yeah, I
or
remember
he
that. It
wanted,
was like
Yeah.
yeah,
late game, like 5 seconds left, but it was like a
yeah.
blowout already.
And there was a huge mess after it. I remember that. Who was involved in it? God damn it.
I
I
know
have
what
the
you're
image
talking
in my
about.
head.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, whatever.
I
It doesn't
can't
matter.
remember, but I know that situation's happened many different times, like
I mean,
over the course of history.
and people say, yeah, the guy that got into a fight got ejected and all that. But I mean, I understand the frustration. You're already losing by like 20
Well,
points.
Tiago, real quick before you continue, Max, what inning did this happen?
It was the eighth inning, so it's a 9 inning game. It was the top of the eighth, so yeah, it was
Okay.
close to being over. So that's why I can understand why some baseball classicalists would be kind of offended by it. But yeah,
And
Right.
I agree. If it's on the end of the game and you have the chance to just cool down and let the game end, just do it. Just have a little respect. I know that doesn't happen in soccer at all. Soccer is a game that if you're winning by 8-0, you're gonna go full gas until the 90th minute, and that's part of the culture of the sport, I believe, because there are no rules to take a
right.
knee in soccer. Like if you just slow down, the other team might keep scoring on you, and that ruins the stats for the goalkeeper and all that. But
Hmm.
if you have the chance to take a knee or just ball hog the basketball and don't throw a 3-pointer on last 20 seconds of a game, if you don't need it,
Right.
nobody ends up losing stats or nobody ends up like injuring or like hurting your numbers. So just have that respect. Take the knee. Don't throw the ball.
Okay.
Don't shoot.
I've
Well,
got.
Play
real quick,
back.
I've
man.
got.
Real quick, let me go
Hmm.
real quick.
Yep.
Tiago, I agree with what you're saying too. I think it's kind of like you just kind of gotta read the situation or kind of know the situation, and sometimes things happen, sometimes they don't. Like, and I think people will be if you're always looking at it in like a negative way, people are always gonna be mad at the times that someone hits a grand slam in the eighth inning, you know. But like, I think you just gotta kind of know the situations, and so like I agree with you. Like in football, like yeah, you're supposed to take a knee at a certain point, and in basketball, you obviously shouldn't be pulling up for three with 5 seconds left and you're up 30, you know?
I got a great example for this. Y'all know the rivalry between Michigan and Ohio, right? A
Yeah.
college rivalry. A few years ago, like a lot of years ago, Ohio was beating Michigan so bad. But like, just it's a rivalry game, so you're not taking breaks. And I think they were winning by 20 points in football, and they kept going for two. Each touchdown, they
Right.
kept going for two. And it's funny because Ohio State people love talking about it, but if you think about it from the coach perspective of having respect for the game, are you really respecting the game? Like you're just being a dick, at some point. Like we know Ohio State is better than Michigan in that year for sure. You're beating them by 27-3 or whatever, but do you really have to go for two every fucking play? Like, just stop. You're gonna get your players hurt too because you're going for two. You're
Right.
making people run. You're making people catch balls in dangerous situations and shit like that. So maybe see it as a like I said in the respect side of the thing. Have respect for the game. Have respect for your athletes and have fair play because having respect for the opponent team, even if it's your bigger rivals, the best way to humiliate your rivals is taking that knee in front of them, especially if you're
Hmm.
playing away games. Everybody says that must be the best feeling ever. You're winning by 20. You take a knee on your opponent's
Right.
field and you win the game like that. That's respectful
Yeah.
for me, and it's a way to humiliate in a
Okay.
respectful way.
So I follow what you're saying, and I agree with some of it. But here's one point about baseball. In basketball, football, and soccer, there's time clocks connected to all those games. There's no time clock on baseball. You got to get 27 outs to win a baseball game. And let me give you a real world example of something that happened the other day. I don't know if you guys followed, but the A's and the Giants played a series in San Francisco the other day. The A's were down 5 runs in the ninth inning. The closer for the Giants melted down, collapsed, and the A's won by 1 run. The next game, the A's are down by 3 runs in the ninth inning. That same closer comes in, meltdown, collapse, A's win again. So I think in this interesting scenario where taxi squads are larger and rosters are bigger in that it's a more condensed, shorter season, I don't think you can let up, man. If
Nah,
if it means putting the smackdown on somebody, hey, guess what? You wake up tomorrow and play a new game. You got new life. But I think that there's no problem with what Tatis Jr. did, and people that do have a problem with it, I don't give a fuck. Frankly, you can bitch about it on Twitter if you want, but it's not going to stop Tatis Jr. from doing it. And hey, man, if you take a fat hack and you hit a granny, it is what it is. That team that gave it up will live to see another day.
I
Yeah, I
agree.
agree. Depends
And
on the
look,
context, always.
That's pretty much what I was thinking too, Max. Is like you have to get a certain amount of outs, right? And I don't know how baseball works as far as like momentum goes, but I feel like if you're down in a certain inning, you could still come back and hit however many runs in a row. Should a pitcher, have the meltdowns or whatever, like you're saying. So I think you just gotta play the game all the way through, and someone ends up hitting a little grand slam. Sorry.
Depending a bit on the game too. Like you gotta know when to slow down too. Just remember that game where
Exactly.
Tracy McGrady scored 13 points in 30 something seconds against the Spurs. The Spurs slow down on a game that was up by 12 or something, and they slowed down on the last 30 seconds. Like maybe you shouldn't have slowed down there. There's
Right.
no that's not a matter of respect. You got Tracy McGrady on the other side firing up. So it's like I
You
said,
gotta play the game all the way through, and you know when to respect people. That's just what it is.
exactly. Know when to
That's
take
the
a knee and
biggest
know when to
point.
slow down. Mhm.
Exactly. You just said it, Kyle and Tiago. Your argument was saying it the whole time. I don't think the situation with Tatis Jr. was a problem, but there's always that respect factor, and I think the best coaches they're completely aware of that. They know when the game's out of reach for their opponent, and they know when to kind of raise the victory flag and put the opponent at its mercy and let them lie down. So I think it's all about knowing when to keep the pedal on the gas and knowing when to let up.
Straight like that.
Facts.
We got any more thoughts about the unwritten rules of baseball or sports here?
I
I'm
think
all
we are.
good.
We
I'm
hit
on Tatis Jr. side, so
yeah,
All
we hit the
right,
nail
there
on
we
this
go.
one.
Hey, if you're listening, Tatis, we're with you, bro. We're with you. Um, that being said, this concludes our episode today. We talked about college sports, the decision of a few conferences to postpone fall sports, and most importantly, college football. We talked about the NBA playoffs, what's going on in the bubble, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Blazers, the Mavericks, a few different squads, the Heat, the Pacers, talking about all that. And then we talk about Tatis Jr. and the unwritten rules of baseball and sports. That being said, we're signing off. We'll see you next week.